When you think Park City, Utah, you might think impeccable ribbons of flow on the Wasatch Crest. You probably don't think chunky, steep technical downhills, but they're there too. Especially at Deer Valley Resort, where we took Commencal's Meta AM for its day in the dirt. And it sure did like what we threw at it.
This is Commencal's enduro bike. This is what their team races on, to some great success actually. It's an aluminum frame, 160 mil travel rear, 170 front, 65.5 degree head angle. What'd you guys think? Did it ride like a big enduro bike?
For a few reasons, I think it did.
Yeah.
For a few reasons, not. But
Yeah.
that aluminum frame is a big part of it. I mean, it's not a light bike.
Yeah.
I mean,
34 and change.
Yeah, and a good amount of change.
Yeah.
So it's up there. But this is the kind of bike that I don't think that is necessarily a negative. I mean, I felt like on a long travel 29 bike that's not going to be flickable, like it's not going to feel like a trail bike. It's going to be something that you're going to get up to the top with and then mob down. And there's something really comforting and stable about having some weight there to sort of keep it on its line.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, I wasn't really bothered by the weight on the climb. I think it wears its heft pretty well. And if you had told me that was a 32-pound bike, I think I would have believed you.
I was surprised by that 34 number.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, I was thinking more, between 31, 32. Saw the 34 number, yeah, right, okay.
Yeah. And
that means it did a really nice job of hiding that on the climb.
Yeah, I kind of chalk that up in big part to its C-tube angle. It's a nice steep position, you're over the bottom bracket, and it just gives the bike a feel where, you could sit there and spin all day.
Yeah, I really like where we're ending up in these seat tube angles. This is the second bike. Now this was 76.5, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice place to be. I like that spot, I really do. And yeah, it could be really heavy and it could sink into its sag a little bit and it still feels really good on the climb.
Yeah. And it does sink into its sag when you get out of the seat and put power down. It's it's not the most efficient pedaling bike, but it gives you nice traction over rocks and roots when you're clambering up stuff.
Yeah, it's one of the few essentially single pivot bikes. It's not a horse link. It's not any kind of a parallel link. But again, it's not necessarily meant to be the most nuanced climber.
Yeah, and you do have a lockout lever on the shock, and it's a pretty full lockout, which I feel a little conflicted about because on the one hand, I would have liked the lever to give me just a more low speed compression so that I could still use it on technical climbs and have a good out of the saddle platform. But it's also nice to have that full lockout if you're spinning up a fire road.
So it's a metal bike, and it's heavy. You knew that, we knew that. But for a bike that's pushing 35 pounds, it rides light and carries itself well enough that you'll be pedaling up all the same stuff as your friends in their carbon superbikes. And you know what that means? You'll have plenty of ammo for shit talking when you get to the top.
Well, we also found that out of the box, it's not chock full of volume spacers. Like if you wanted it to just have a naturally more supported feel, you can load it up a little bit more. So you could sort of get that halfway and maybe make it a little more bashable.
Yeah, and that's a good thing for me because on the descents, so I started with this bike at 30% sag in the rear, pretty typical. And it felt good at first, but then I hit one of the drops on our course and I just blew right through the travel, which it's not a huge drop, so I took that as an indication that I wanted a little more progression. So I increased the air pressure, but then it felt sort of chattery, so I would definitely take advantage of those bottomless spacers.
Now, I rode last year's version of this bike, and it came with a coil spring in the rear end. And there's no build with a coil spring, which I think is kind of unfortunate because I thought it played to this bike's strengths really, really well. But it's good to know that it doesn't. It's not like a Ibis Ritmo that has a leverage curve that's just not compatible with it. You could totally do it.
Something that's quite special, about a really well sorted metal bike. It's that dampness. It just feels so planted, so solid, and I love that feel.
Well, I think that paired really well with the relatively, by today's standards, conservative geometry. Like it's not like a Yeti SB150 or even my Scott Ransom. It's a little bit higher and tighter, and pairing that with the heavier frame just made it this not totally unmanageable pig. I mean, a pig that you can manage. I mean, that's
you wrestled that pig.
Oh yeah,
you really did.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but in fact, I have my most coveted KOM on a Commencal Meta AM 29, and it really is, and it's a tight, twisty, steep, gnarly trail, and I think this bike pairs really well with that kind of stuff. Not necessarily old school DH straight lining through stuff. So it has that versatility that I don't think that you would expect from a heavy 29-inch aluminum bike with these kinds of travel numbers.
Totally agree.
Speaking about other builds, you hear Commencal, they're known for their value, and this particular build left us kind of scratching our heads. Honestly, the model below it, the Essential build, if you are concerned a little bit with price, like that's the one to get. It's $3,300, Fox front and rear.
Oh, and a bitchin' color too, right?
Yeah, rad skinwall tires.
Yeah.
That's worth at least $1,000 right there.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, I thought it was a thoughtful spec. I like it when a company that's got racing roots, as they do, puts an emphasis on suspension over other things, which is what they did on this build. It's definitely up front. We're going to put the money in the bouncy bits, right? Good, love that. And the rest of the stuff just works great. It's just SOP for that kind of a build.
Yeah.
But then if you wanted to spend more than this one, there's an Axis build for $5K. Like Axis derailleurs, Axis dropper. I mean, that's
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. To have, wireless electromechanical shifting at that price point is really cool.
And while we're talking about price, Commencal being a consumer direct brand, compared to the other two big consumer direct brands, Canyon and YT, those two brands give you a little more of a concierge experience when you're buying a bike. The box is nice, the instructions are really nice, they come with a really nice set of tools. Commencals are out of the box, sort of like having worked at bike shops, just like a Trek or a Giant or Specialized. Like you need to be able to be comfortable tuning it up.
Yeah, the brakes might rub, the derailleur might not shift perfectly.
Yeah.
Not such a dialed out-of-the-box experience is what we're seeing.
So while the Meta AM may not be the longest or lowest or slackest of our long travel class, or even as long, low, or slack as we expected, it reminded us that those buzzwords are not all things in all situations, and that even on a big, heavy bike, there's something to be said for more versatile geometry when your trails demand it. Check out the full review and the rest of the Bible of Bike Test videos at bikemag.com.